Hello everyone, welcome to MBA Karo. Today is day 24 for hot summer, and today we are going to solve reading comprehension. And in the previous videos we had done RCs based on science and environment and on social sciences. In this class we are going to have RCs based on philosophy and psychology. Okay, so we shall have RCs based on these two topics. If you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow us on social media platforms. So this is the schedule and we are on day 24, 6 more days to go of this action packed series that will help you in cracking CAT and other MBA entrance tests. In case you wish to enroll in our CAT batch that will help you crack the examination in a structured manner, you can do so, and you can use the code HOT to get 20% off till the end of this month. Let's start this class and try to read the passage first. Pause the video, read the passage, and then answer the questions, and then see the solutions. And at the end, do let me know in the comments that how many questions were you able to solve correctly, and which essay, which of the passages you found doable, which one was the most difficult, etc. So let's begin with the first passage. So this is a passage based on psychology. Let's read the passage. So it says that what is that draws you to an article about a topic like psychology? Why not just mindlessly scroll through the feeds on your phone instead, or stare out of the window? Perhaps it's because you enjoy cognitive effort, which means you would likely to score high on a trait called need for cognition. So the author starts with a question that why do some people are attracted towards psychology? The reason is they enjoy cognitive effort and they have the need for cognition. So people who want to put cognitive effort or have this need of cognition are interested in psychology. On the other hand, there are people who would just like doing mindless things. So for example, like it talks about that why don't you just watch feeds on your phone. So it means that there have to be there are people who are engrossed in such activities where there are some people who have this need for cognition. In everyday life, people can often choose how hard they want to flex their mental muscles. You might make that choice without knowing exactly what motivates it. If you want to watch some Netflix after work, you could opt for light-hearted sitcoms or pick a mystery with several timelines. So it talks about like either you would go for a light-hearted sitcom which does not require you to put a lot of efforts into your brain, or you could pick a mystery with several timelines. So you could go for a mystery series. So this means that like there is a spectrum. So people, some would like to have watch some content that does not require much application of brain, or some which are intense and that require more attention. If it's a game night, you might vote for playing Twister, or instead for a complex strategy game like Twilight Imperium. If you are taking a trip somewhere, you might stick to the basic level of planning needed to get you there, or you might think it through further, researching interesting stops and favorable routes and mapping out a more detailed plan. So all these, basically it talks about the different degrees of cognitive effort. Okay, so it talks about the entire spectrum, that in one case you put the least mental effort, and in the other case the mental effort is the highest. So that is the entire spectrum of mental effort. So that is what shows that if a person is interested in psychology, would have this need for cognition and would like to put more cognitive effort into it. Still, some people tend to be more inclined towards cognitive effort overall than others are. The need for cognition is a way of describing this more stable difference between people. You can think of it as a spectrum ranging from someone who usually does the bare minimum of thinking needed to get through life to someone who finds flexing their mental muscles as delightful as a bodybuilder finds flexing their physical muscles. So basically there is an entire spectrum of people, and so this involves people who put minimal efforts on their thinking, whereas some people try to flex their mental muscles, like bodybuilders flex their physical muscles. Okay, like many other psychological traits, the need for cognition can be assessed with questionnaire, which asks the person to rate how much they agree or disagree with the statements about thinking, such as I would prefer complex to simple problems, or I only think as hard as I have to, using a 9-point scale. So this need for cognition can be assessed with a questionnaire. So like you have surveys wherein there is a questionnaire, you have to rate from a scale of 1 to 9. Okay, so this can measure that how high the need for cognition is of a particular person. In addition to pondering over how your response to such statements would compare with other people's, you might also recognize yourself in the way that needs for cognition is related to leisure activities. It is also related to leisure activities. People who enjoy cognitive effort are more likely to seek it out in their free time, such as by watching educational content or discussing societal issues, irrespective of how high their cognitive abilities are. So if people have need for cognition, okay, need for cognition means the people who put more effort into thinking, and it is reflected in their leisure activities also. Okay, so need for cognition is related to leisure activities also. People who have put cognitive effort, they even in their free time they would watch educational content, they wouldn't watch some comedy, or they would instead watch something meaningful. And similarly, like for example, they will discuss societal issues instead of discussing trivial issues. Okay, so that's what it shows, that it is reflective in the leisure activities as well. People who relish mental challenges are not necessarily more intelligent, although some research has found that on average they score higher on fluid intelligence, the ability to solve problems and think logically. So people who have this need for cognition are not necessarily more intelligent. Okay, but some research has shown that they score higher on fluid intelligence, basically the problem solving ability. What's the key? That they enjoy the journey of learning and problem solving. Research indicates that this enjoyment can help compensate for when someone has lower abilities in school, because it leads to a deeper understanding than superficial or rote learning would. So the need for cognition is quite an obvious subject of interest in the context of education, but we are only beginning to understand its effects in other areas of life. So basically it says that they are not necessarily very intelligent, but they are deep thinkers. So they would instead of rote learning, they would try to delve deeper into the topic. Okay, so it says that if a person has less academic abilities, it can be compensated with need for cognition. So that is the passage all about, that what is need for cognition, and how do people exhibit in their traits, in their activities, etc. So let's look at the questions. The first question says the choices people make regarding watching Netflix and planning a trip in the passage are examples of. Okay, so what is this an example of? So how intelligence can influence leisure activities. So it does not talk about intelligence reflecting leisure activities. How people with high need for cognition are more indecisive. So it does not say that they are more indecisive. The correlation between need for cognition and social activities. How everyday choices reflect a person's need for cognitive effort. So basically it talks about that these watching Netflix and planning a trip. So this, if you talk about this passage, the second paragraph, it basically asks that what is the role of second paragraph. Okay, so it says, it basically shows how it reflects how a person puts cognitive effort. So this would be the right answer. It does not show the correlation between cognition and social activities. It basically shows that how choices show the cognitive effort a person puts into their day-to-day activities, like be it watching something on Netflix, or planning a trip, or playing a video game, etc. So here's the next question. It says that The passage suggests a link between need for cognition and leisure activities. Which of the following, if true, would further strengthen this connection? So the connection is need for cognition and leisure activities. So something which will strengthen will mean that it adds to that point. People with high need for cognition are more likely to spend time on social media platforms that promote intellectual decisions. It makes sense because we are saying that people who have high need for cognition and leisure activities, they generally spend time on mindful activities. So this is what is aligning with the passage. Studies show a negative correlation. Okay, so it is wrong. There is no significant difference in television viewing habits between individual with high and low need for cognition. That is wrong because there is a difference in the television viewing habits. Some people have high need for cognition, they will watch some meaningful programs, and others would watch something that requires minimum brain activity. People with high need for cognition score higher on standardized tests regardless of their study habits. Okay, so it says that it is not necessary. It does not say that it is necessary that they will score well. Okay, it is basically it is related to, first of all, leisure activities. Now this talks about taking tests, right? So this is what aligns with the question, and this hence is the right answer. The passage mentions that people in high in need for cognition might score higher on fluid intelligence. What can be inferred about the relationship between these two concepts? Okay, so it says that like people who have high need for cognition might score well on fluid intelligence. What is the reason? Need for cognition is a subset of fluid intelligence. No, it does not say that it is a subset of intelligence. It says that these people who relish mental challenges are not necessarily more intelligent. So it is not a subset of fluid intelligence. High fluid intelligence guarantees a high need for cognition. No, so it is not that high fluid intelligence means high need for cognition. These are independent things. Okay, but there is like correlation is that like people who have high cognitive high need for cognition, they tend to do better at fluid intelligence also. They are independent traits that can co-occur in some individuals. Need for cognition can improve a person's fluid intelligence. See, it does not say that it can improve a person's fluid intelligence. It is like fluid intelligence is already there. It basically says that they can co-occur in some individuals, because it says that although some research has found that on average they score higher on fluid intelligence. So it is just a it's a incidence that people with high need for cognition have decent fluid intelligence. So it's just a mere coincidence. It is not a particular correlation that exists between these two sets of people. The passage concludes by stating that the effects of the need for cognition in various aspects of life are only beginning to be understood. What is the main implication of this statement? So basically it says that what does this conclusion suggest? So conclusion suggests that like if you read the last lines, so the need for cognition is quite an obvious subject of interest in the context of education, but we are only beginning to understand its effects in other areas of life. So basically it says that we are just starting to discover more of it. So it is just a you can say that it's a recent discovery and it is at a superficial level. So they need to go deep into understanding this. So let's look at the options. The first option says the concept of the need for cognition is still under debate in psychology. Under debate means that some people are in favor of it, some are against it. So debate is something wherein there are two debate is said that where there are two viewpoints which are opposite in nature. Okay, so there is no opposite viewpoint presented in the passage, so we can't say that it's a debate. Second, more research is needed to explore the impact of need for cognition. Yes, that sounds good because it says that it is just the beginning and you need to know more about this impact for need for cognition. Psychologists have already identified all the relevant applications. That's completely against it, right? If it had identified all the applications, why would they say that it is just the beginning? The need for cognition is likely to have minimal influence on people's lives, so we can't comment that it will have minimal impact. Okay, that is nowhere mentioned. So this makes sense because it says that more research is needed to explore the impact of need for cognition. So that is the answer to this question. Now let's move to the next passage. It is about Bhutan and about the happiness. It is one of the happiest countries of the world, so let's read it. It was the kingdom of Bhutan, a remote country in the Himalayas, which in the 20th century first introduced the idea of government could and should be officially involved in its citizens' happiness. So Bhutan was the first country in the world that talked about that government should be officially involved in its citizens' happiness. In 1972, King Jigme Singye Wangchuk declared, gross national happiness is more important than gross domestic product. So a term described here, gross national happiness is greater than GDP. So it says that happiness matters more than money. Okay, so and created a gross national happiness index which acts like a political barometer, slumping when social or political ills overwhelm. For over 30 years, while other countries flex their muscles based on GDP, Bhutan quietly put out its happiness numbers, which were calculated by surveying samples of its population with such questions as how often do you recite prayers or meditate, how satisfied are you with your relationship with your family, how free do you feel to express your ideas. So basically it says that Bhutan was the first country which was into this concept of happiness, gross national happiness. So instead of focusing on GDP, which it said that it is happiness of a country matters more than the production of the country. So they focused on this happiness index. Now the idea of a gross national happiness index remained mostly foreign to West until 2008, when French President Nicolas Sarkozy commissioned economists Joseph E. Stiglitz, Amartya Sen and Jean-Paul Fitoussi to study how useful it would be to consider happiness when developing global indexes. 3 years later, the UN General Assembly convened to discuss a new resolution based on that study. That resolution was 65/309, or happiness towards a holistic approach to development, and its premise was, in theory, bleakly simple. The pursuit of happiness is a fundamental human goal, the report states. The gross domestic product indicator by nature was not designed, and it does not adequately reflect the happiness and well-being of people. Countries in turn should mold their public policy to reflect their citizens' happiness and move away from the vastly more popular measurement of commercial success. So basically it says that, the first paragraph gives the introduction that Bhutan was the first country to introduce it, and for about 3 decades none of the other countries focused on this part. But in 2008, French president he appointed these economists and conducted a study that is happiness also an important indicator of a company's you would say a country's supremacy in the world. Okay, so then they came up with this research, and the UN General Assembly, they made a new resolution that the countries should mold public policy to reflect their citizen happiness. Okay, so it is not just about commercial success, but also about that how happy the people of a country are. So that's how this thing was developed. One of the results of the resolution has been the annual World Happiness Report. So post that, World Happiness Report has been published, the country by country ranking of national happiness, on which India had fallen towards the bottom. So India was towards the bottom. 156 countries are evaluated based on variables proved to better one's life, a sort of Maslow's hierarchy manual for politicians. income, life expectancy, social support, freedom, trust, and generosity. As Jeffrey Sachs, the co-author of the report, put it, asking people whether they are happy or satisfied with their lives offers important information about the society. It can signal underlying crisis or hidden strength. It can suggest the need for change. To most of humanity, the World Happiness Report has been treated as a mid-quarter report card of useful and just as usefully ignored, but some countries, often not very democratic ones, it may be worth noting, have prioritized moving up in the ranking. There was Venezuela's cruelly ironic Ministry of Supreme Social Happiness, established just before a bloody uprising in 2014 to implement an umbrella of new social programs. There is the United Arab Emirates' robust Ministry of Happiness and Well-being, designed to align and drive government policy to create social good and satisfaction. There was Nigeria's Ministry of Happiness and Purpose Fulfillment, which have aimed to reduce the cost and skilling employees and improving the employability of young people. And then after, India slipped 7 places from its original ranking of 111 in 2013. It was noted by Indian media that Pakistan ranked higher. The country created its ministry. So basically it said that there are a lot of countries that did not focus on it, and then once this thing which came up, like World Happiness Report came up, and there were certain countries which were lagging far behind it. Like the author has given examples of Nigeria, UAE, India. Okay, these countries did not focus on this happiness thing first, and then when they realized that their ranking is far behind, they started working on these and created ministries for happiness measurement. Okay, so now let's look at the questions. The first question says, the primary purpose of the passage is to. What does the passage do? Advocate for the universal adoption of gross national happiness as a primary economic indicator. It does not say that one must adopt this GNH as a primary economic indicator. It says that like Bhutan is a country which said that it is an important indicator and prioritized it, but it does not suggest that you have to adopt it. Criticize the World Happiness Report? No, it does not criticize it, right? It just mentions that this has been published for some time, and then the countries have been working on happiness, improving this factor. Explain the historical development of the concept of national happiness as a political goal. Now this is the historical development, right? It talks about how Bhutan did it, right? Then how France came up with this idea that in the West, like France came up with this idea of it, and then in 2000, after 2008, this World Happiness Report was generated, and then certain countries started working on it. So it is just giving the historical development. So that aligns with the structure of the passage. Analyze the effectiveness of government ministries. No, it is not talking about the effectiveness. It never mentions that whether these plans were effective or not. According to the passage, which of the following statements can be inferred about India's Ministry of Happiness? So India's Ministry of Happiness, it talks about that it was launched much later. It was established as a genuine effort to improve the lives of Indian citizens. No, it never says that it was a genuine effort. It was primarily created to appease the Indian public after a decline in the World Happiness Report ranking. So this entire last paragraph, when we talk about these countries like Venezuela, okay, and UAE, Nigeria, and all these countries, they adopted this thing like this happiness ministry in order to improve their rankings. So India, so all these were trying to create these ministries because they saw that their rank in World Happiness Report was too bad. So this is what it means. Its effectiveness in increasing national happiness is demonstrably successful. No, it never says that it has been successful. It focuses solely on improving employment opportunities for young people, so out of scope of the passage. So this is what aligns with the passage. It says that it was created to improve India's ranking in the World Happiness Report. How does Jeffrey Sachs' quote about World Happiness Report contribute to the argument about GNH? So we will find his quote. He says that asking people whether they are happy or satisfied with their lives offers important information about the society. It can signal underlying crisis or hidden strength. It can suggest the need for change. So basically his quote says that when people are asked such questions, so they reveal certain things which cannot be measured by commercial success. So like if you just measure the GDP, that does not suggest like what people really want and what is the improvement they are looking for. However, these questions help us identify underlying crisis or hidden strength. It can suggest the need for change. So what needs to be changed in the country? It criticizes the subjectivity of the report's happiness measure. No, it does not criticize it. It downplays the importance of national happiness compared to economic growth. No, it does not downplay, it does not make it less important. Okay. It suggests that the report should be used to compare countries' economic performance. No, it does not say that. It highlights the report's potential to reveal underlying societal issues. So it says that it could be underlying crisis or hidden strength. So there could be certain societal issues that could be present in these once we start measuring GNH. Okay, so that's what is mentioned in the passage. How does the concept of Maslow's hierarchy of needs connect to the idea of GNH? Now if you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, fine. If you do not know, don't worry about it. Just read where does it say. It talks about the Maslow's hierarchy manual for politicians. So 156 countries are evaluated based on variables proved to better one's life. A sort of hierarchy manual for politicians: income, life expectancy, support, social support, freedom, trust and generosity. Okay, so it says that it suggests that as it happens in Maslow's hierarchy, so there are some hierarchy of needs. Okay, so how does this GNH thing compare to it? Both GNH and Maslow's hierarchy emphasize importance of fulfilling various needs for well-being. So it talks about Maslow's hierarchy, talks about these needs, and if you understand the overall gist of the passage, this also talks about that GNH fulfills all these needs, right? They talk about social support, freedom, trust, generosity, so etc. These are all certain things. Like it talks about that how people have relationship with their family, okay, how they feel to express their ideas. So that means they have freedom, okay, and they have social support, etc. So it aligns that it is similar. There are similar needs for well-being. So both of them emphasize the importance of fulfilling various needs for well-being. Let's look at the other options. Maslow's hierarchy prioritizes basic needs which are not considered in GNH. No, there are some similar things. Like we talk about freedom, trust, social support, which are also part of GNH. Okay, so that is wrong. Then it says that third option says countries with ministries of happiness are more likely to adopt Maslow's. So it does not compare that which countries will adopt Maslow's hierarchy as a policy framework or not. The passage criticizes Maslow's hierarchy for being an outdated model of human needs. It does not mention that whether it is an outdated model or a recent model. Okay, so this aligns with the passage that both of them importance talk about the importance of fulfilling various needs for well-being. Okay, so they are close enough. That's what it says. Okay, so I hope you are enjoying this session. So please do like this video and watch the entire series to boost your CAT preparation. Let's now move on to the next passage. So let's read this passage and understand it and then answer the questions. So this passage says that in common with other young Catholic boys, I spent long hours on my knees saying prayers for departed relatives. So basically, like it talks about Catholic boys means a Christian. The author is a Christian, and he spent long hours on my knees saying prayers for the departed relatives. So he used to pray when he was a child. He used to pray for departed relatives. Don't forget to pray for your Uncle Leslie, mother would call as I climbed the stairs to bed. This always seemed an odd injunction because I knew only too well that poor Uncle Leslie had been thoroughly dead and buried for the best part of 10 years. But mother constantly reminded me that he had hardly led a blameless Catholic life, what with 3 marriages and that rumored affair with a Parisian nightclub hostess. He would therefore have been sentenced by God to years of atonement in purgatory before being airlifted to Elysian fields. Only regular prayers could ensure that his purgatorial residence was relatively short-lived, no more say than a few years. So basically he says that his mother used to push him to pray for his Uncle Leslie. So he says that he was like when he was a child, he would find this is like it was a strange thing that he used to pray for his uncle who had died a long back ago, and he was not like he was not a very you would say that a religious man or something, and he had like this thing like purgatory means it's a sort of phase after death wherein like you can call it a phase that you spend in hell, right, before going to heaven. So like if you have committed sins in your life, then you will have to spend more time on that. So that's what it means. So purgatory is basically the phase after death wherein you have to suffer a lot. Okay, then you move on to the heaven part. So that's what the philosophy is. So people pray for like the people who did not lead a very you would say a saint life. They tend to spend more time in that purgatory, and their relatives pray that their suffering in that purgatory phase is less. And so the like it says that have been sentenced by God to years of atonement. So atonement means to repent of your the sins you committed in your life. Okay, so the author says that as a child I was asked that I should pray for his uncle so that his duration of suffering is reduced by some years. Okay, mother could speak about the time in the afterlife in which such now if you have not understand if you did not understand this part, it says that the time in the afterlife with such specificity because of the Catholic catechism's readiness to attach precise periods of atonement to distinctive scenes. So there is a period of atonement. Atonement means like repentance. In Hindi there is a word called prayaschit. Okay, so that is what atonement means. So basically like it depends on your sins that you committed in your life. As I recall, a purgatorial term of 6 months was the sentence allocated to those who had violated the 10th commandment's injunction not to covet one's neighbor's goods, and a mere 28 days to had consistently failed to attend Sunday morning mass. So basically he says that this period of atonement was distinctive for different sins. So for different sins that you committed in your life, the punishment is different. Okay, so if a person has committed more crime, will be in this phase for a longer duration. A person who has committed lesser sins will be in that for a lesser duration. So it depended on the kind of sin that you committed. So it gives some example. So like 10th commandment injunction. So you do not need to know that what is 10th commandment injunction, not to covet one's neighbor's goods. So basically the thing is, for some sins it was long, for some sins it was short. Okay, which was different. Even though I currently regard this portrait of life after death as patently absurd, it did not have one distinct advantage. It meant there were good reasons for constantly reflecting upon the lives of friends and relatives who had passed away. It gave one a license to extend mourning. Cousins, aunts and grannies who otherwise might have long since passed out of one's consciousness were regularly resuscitated by the need to pray for their eternal salvation. In the secular world, once the dead are properly buried, we should forget about them, and there is no better way to seal up the coffin than the present predilection for memorial services. Everyone there can recite their favorite anecdote, pick out an apt bit of literary prose, and sing along the department favorite pop song. Thank God that's over, one mourner said to me last month as we were leaving for one such service. So basically the author says that he found this practice absurd, but there was another reason. Like the reason was the reason which these people were told that it was to reduce their face in the purgatory. But the other reason the author would associate is that this is the way to remember those dead people. Otherwise people would forget them. Right? Let's say a person died, people might forget them. But if they pray for their better life after life, this is how the people will remember their friends and relatives. In my childhood religion, it was never all over. Not did the dead need our regular prayers to escape purgatorial punishment, but there could also be an opportunity to meet up with them on Judgment Day and give a bit of luck chance to join them for eternity. So Judgment Day is a philosophy in Christianity that like one day you will be announced on that Judgment Day, like you get the final verdict. Okay, so that's what is mentioned, that they might meet those people over there. A lot of nonsense, but somehow so much more comforting than thank God that's all over. I recalled all the times I'd spent praying for one good fortune of the dead when I lost two of my closest and most valued friends. First to go back in 2013 was my fellow sociologist and co-author Stan Cohen. For the best part of 25 years, we had been in touch with each other on an almost daily basis. Not only had we been sociological collaborators, but also partners in any number of anarchic escapades. So basically he talks about that he mentions one of his friends who he had very close relations with, and he died, his friend died, and he used to pray for him. So that's what it is mentioned in the passage. So let's look at the questions. It says that why does the author found his childhood practice of praying for deceased relatives, particularly Uncle Leslie, peculiar? So why did he find peculiar? So let's look at it. So he found that there was no reason for it, right? He found that these were just so he questioned the effectiveness of prayers influencing the afterlife. He never questioned it, right? He did not ask that is it effective or not. He doubted whether Uncle Leslie deserved a long purgatory sentence. He never doubted it. Now look at the words, doubted. He never questioned, he never doubted. He couldn't understand why prayers were needed for someone long dead. See, he says that he had been thoroughly dead and buried for the best part of 10 years. So basically his uncle had died long back. So he was always curious that why would someone need prayers even after such a long part. Okay, he felt uncomfortable praying for someone with a less than ideal Catholic life. So he did not feel uncomfortable, but he was always he would always question that why would someone need prayers after being dead for such a long time. Okay, so that is the answer to this question. The author contrasts the Catholic view of the afterlife with the thank God that's all over sentiment. What is the main implication of this comparison? Okay, so he says that thank God it's over. Okay, so he says that there was a person, and one mourner said to the So person was saying thank God that's all over, one mourner said to me last month. And then here also it says that thank God that's all over. A load of nonsense, but somehow so much more comforting than thank God that's all over. Okay, so it talks about that it is secular memorial services offer a more realistic and healthy approach to mourning. So secular memorial services it does not mention about this thing. Okay, nowhere it mentions about secular memorial services. Religious beliefs about that afterlife can provide a sense of comfort and purpose in mourning. So if you look at this, it says that a lot of nonsense, but somehow so much more comforting than. So it talks about the sense of comfort. Okay, so there is sense of comfort and purpose in mourning. So you mourn for someone because it gives you comfort to remember those people. Both religious and secular approaches to death have their own merits and drawbacks. No mention about their merits and drawbacks. The finality of secular views makes it difficult to maintain long-term connections with the deceased. It does not say that that secular viewpoint makes it difficult to maintain long-term connections, but this thing which it says that like religious beliefs can provide a sense of comfort and purpose in mourning, that makes sense. That like why people actually do this thing. So they mourn for a dead, so that gives them a sense of comfort. Why does the passage mention the author's collaboration with his friend Stan Cohen? Okay, so it says that like in the last paragraph, if we see, he talks about his friend Stan Cohen. So why does it mention it? It highlights the importance of maintaining close relationships throughout life. Okay, not exactly talking about maintaining close relationships. So let's put it on hold. It suggests that the loss of a friend reinforces the need for religious rituals in mourning. It does not say that it reinforces religious rituals. It contrasts the author's academic life with his personal experience of loss. So it does not contrast his life. It demonstrates that the personal significance of the author's experience with death and loss. Okay, so it does talk about this. It does talk about the personal significance, because so far he was doing like he did not have any personal connect, right? So when he did for his uncle, there was no personal connect. Like it was because his mother asked him to pray for his uncle, but he did not have any personal connect. Now when his friend died, this Stan Cohen died, he had this personal significance for his friend, because he said that he was his friend for 25 years and they were quite close. So now he experienced this impact of death and loss. So that is why this person has been mentioned. So it gives the significance of author's experience with death and loss. So personal significance. Previously he did not have any personal significance. He was doing just as a ritual. Now he has a personal significance for this activity. The passage refers to the Catholic catechism and its specific time frames for purgatory sentences. How does this detail contribute to the author's argument? So it talks about Catholic catechisms and it says that it has precise periods for atonement to distinctive sense. So basically this catechism, maybe some rules. Okay, so it has like for these you have like certain set of rules, and like for different sins you have to serve different periods of atonement. It shows how religious doctrines can provide a framework for reflecting on the lives of the deceased. So this is a religious doctrine, Catholic catechism. So there is some religious doctrine present over here, which is like, so it has a connotation with the word. Okay, so it's a religious belief, right? So catechism may be some sort of belief and doctrine means belief. So religious belief. So this could be the answer. Let's look at other options. It demonstrates the comforting certainty provided by Catholic beliefs about the afterlife. Comforting certainty, no, it does not talk about any certainty, okay, which is out of context here. It emphasizes the importance of adhering strictly to religious commandments to avoid purgatory. It does not say that you have to adhere strictly. It does not mention it. Okay. It highlights the absurdity of the concept of purgatory with its arbitrary punishments. It does not say that this is absurd, right? The author believed that this thing is concept of purgatory is absurd, but this particular part, right, does not talk about absurdity. It shows that how religious doctrines, so this is a religious belief which provides a framework. So the framework here is that like it is, as I recall, the purgatorial term of 6 months. So there is a framework, so which has been defined in this passage, that for different sins you have to serve different duration in the purgatory. So that is what is given in the passage. Okay, so that was some passage on religion. Now here's next one, that's a psychology based passage on traumatic experience. So let's read the passage and then we will look at the questions. So this passage says that one of the defining features of a traumatic experience is an intense feeling of helplessness or loss of control. So feature of traumatic experience is helplessness or loss of control. In the aftermath of trauma, there is often a sense of dread that something bad will happen again. So trauma basically means that, let's say if something bad has happened to someone, they start fearing this thing, that something bad will happen again. Okay, so let's say a person meets with a very deadly accident, right? So they will again start fearing. So if you hear that, let's say some person met with an accident, they will have developed that fear to drive, because they will always think that the accident can happen again. If a person is drowned, will develop a fear of water, okay, that they might drown again. Okay, so that is what is given in this paragraph. It says that people always feel that something bad will happen again. So that is the characteristic of trauma. Attempting to control one's body size, shape or food intake might present a way for someone to restore a sense of control and predictability. Moreover, look better, feel better messaging continues to be pervasive in many cultures. These factors could partly explain why symptoms of trauma and eating disorders behavior collide. So trauma and eating disorders collide in some way. Okay, so basically people try to control one's body size, and that gives them a sense of control and predictability. Neuroscience sheds light on how trauma profoundly affects the mind. Studies reveal that individuals with PTSD, so PTSD is like post-trauma stress disorder. Okay, so once you have faced trauma, so what happens after that, that is called PTSD. Often exhibit disrupted brain activities in specific areas. So in specific brain areas there are activities. One such areas, that is insular cortex, and it plays a crucial role in processing sensory information like touch, temperature and direction. Similarly, dysfunction in, so it talks about different parts of brain that start dysfunctioning. Okay, so there is dysfunction in the brain. So that leads to eating disorders. Why is this significant? For most of us, there is a keen awareness of our body's signals regarding hunger, fullness and emotional and physical pain. Termed interoceptive awareness, this awareness guides our responses to body's cues. We eat when hungry, seek comfort when sad, and continue with daily life when satisfied in good spirits, unimpeded by physical discomfort. However, individuals with eating disorders consistently report lower levels of interoceptive awareness, meaning that cues for hunger, fullness and physical and emotional pain are not as easy for them to perceive. When they begin treatment, many have difficulty identifying the experience of hunger or fullness. So these people, those who have eating disorders, have this thing that they do not feel this have this feeling of hunger, right? Some people feel hungry, okay, then they eat food, but these people with eating disorders, they might not. So there are two spectrums, like one might not feel hungry and that is why not eat and might grow weak, whereas other spectrum is like people might feel extra hungry, okay, and they will continue to eat. So they do not have this emotion of hunger or fullness. Okay, in the absence of internal cues, their eating can look very mechanical. Many people with eating disorders also frequently feel emotionally and physically numb, and may even experience moments of total dissociation to the point that they don't feel certain body parts or feel generally uneasy in their own skin. It is common for someone with an eating disorder to grossly miscalculate the size and shape of their body when looking at it in a mirror or photograph. These deficits are often present while many parts of the brain are running at full speed. So basically it says that people who have eating disorder, they do not worry about their body shape. Like if there is a normal person would be concerned about their body shape, right? People think they want to look good, but people who have eating disorder, they may not consider, like if there is a person who is fat, right? If a person has body disorder, their brain functions in such a way that when they look at the mirror, they do not realize themselves. Or for example, a person has gone anorexic, a person who is very thin, okay, and they might not feel that they actually need proper nutrition. I found that for many part of my clients, the experience of trauma seems to set the stage for this dissociative state, and the eating disorder serves as a manifestation for the disconnection. When communication between the brain and the rest of the body breaks down, trouble follows. A person's relationship with food and eating can become devoid of intuition or spontaneity. This numbness provides a perfect setting for eating disorders to thrive. So basically, like how these trauma and eating disorders are correlated. So when trauma happens, right, the brain becomes numb, right? You do not start you would say that like the brain becomes numb, you start losing feelings. Okay, so same happens in case of eating disorders also. Okay, so there's the correlation between these two things. For some, eating disorder behaviors may serve as a way to regulate a nervous system that has been hijacked by trauma. So again, like some people whose nervous system has been hijacked, right? People lose feelings. So this is a way to regulate it. As mentioned, restricting food can function as a means of feeling in control after an extreme experience of helplessness. So like restricting food can give this thing, like they will feel in control. For others, binging and purging provides a sense of relief and might be reinforced by a release of dopamine. Binge eating in itself can provide a sense of comfort in inner turmoil. These behaviors can present a desperate attempt to feel something, anything at all, when one's body feels numb and detached. So basically what happens is like once you have a trauma, your body feels numb and detached, right? Your brain disassociates you from all other things. So you develop this eating disorders. So either you binge eat or you do not eat. Like binge eat means you eat continuously and you grow fat, or you stop eating, like you do not feel eating like eating at all. So you get two extreme cases. So basically if you look at this passage, it talks about that the feature of traumatic experience and how eating disorder is similar to it. Okay, so how they are correlated. So let's look at the questions. So first is, according to the passage, how does look better, feel better message contribute to the development of eating disorders? So look better, feel better, it is mentioned in the first paragraph. So it says look better, feel better messaging continues to be pervasive in many cultures. These factors could partly explain why symptoms of trauma. So let's see the previous line. Attempting to control one's body size, shape or food intake might present a way of someone to restore a sense of control and predictability. Okay, so it says that it is a sense of control and predictability. It says that it suggests that weight loss is the key to emotional happiness. Now it talks about it says that attempting to control one's body size, shape of food intake might present a way for someone to restore a sense of control and predictability. So it is talking about emotional happiness, isn't it? It says that weight loss is the key to emotional happiness. So this feel better, look better, feel better. So it talks about that if you look better, you will feel better. So you will get emotional happiness from it. Promotes healthy eating habits for achieving physical beauty. No, it does not talk about achieving physical beauty. Healthy eating habits, it does not mention. It encourages people to focus on external appearance rather than internal well-being. No, it does not say that. It creates a sense of competition for achieving a perfect body image. No, that is not the case. So basically it talks about that if you look better, you feel better, that means you gain emotional happiness when you lose weight. So basically it suggests that physical looks are associated with emotional happiness. So if you if you look good, look better, you feel better. That means if your physical structure is good, you will have more emotional happiness. The passage discusses the insular cortex and its role in the brain in order to. Why has the author discussed about this insular cortex? So it is in this paragraph. It says that one such area, the insular cortex, plays a crucial role in processing sensory information. So it talks about that how so disrupted brain activation in specific areas demonstrate the overall impact of trauma on brain function. Could be explain the connection between the disrupted sensory processing and eating disorders. See, it talks about the disrupted brain activation in specific areas. Okay, so it talks about this disrupted sensory processing. And does it talk about eating disorder? Yes, it says that for most of us there is a keen awareness about body signals regarding hunger, fullness and emotional and physical pain. Okay, so it says that there is a connection between disrupted sensory processing. So sensory processing is that brain area, there is disrupted sensory processing, as a result it leads to eating disorder. So that's why the author has mentioned this insular cortex. Concept of interoceptive awareness could be a close one, because it does talk about interoceptive awareness. Recent advancement that is out of scope. Demonstrate the overall impact of trauma on brain function. No, not the overall impact. So these are close ones, B and C. Connection between disrupted sensory processing and eating disorders. So primarily, like if you look at this, it introduces this term called interoceptive awareness, but the purpose is how there is a link between eating disorders and like disrupted sensory processing. Okay, so that could be a major reason, because primarily the passage is about how eating disorders happens in traumatic people. So because of this disrupted brain, disrupted sensory processing, so that would be the right fit for this question. What role does dissociation play in the development of eating disorders as described in the passage? So dissociation is, where is it mentioned? Dissociation basically means disconnection, right? So if you dissociate with someone, okay, so if you look at this paragraph, it talks about dissociation, okay, dissociative, something like this. So let's read this. In the absence of internal cues, their eating can look very mechanical. Many people with eating disorders also frequently feel emotionally and physically numb, and they may even experience moments of total dissociation to the point that they don't feel like certain parts of their or feel generally uneasy in their own skin. So development of eating disorders. So basically it says that like people have this dissociation because they do not feel their body, right? So it contributes to the heightened awareness of bodily cues. So it is opposite of it. It says that the people they stop feeling about their certain body parts, so they generally get numb. Okay, it reduces the likelihood of body image issues. No, It helps in maintaining intuitive eating habits. No, if you look at this sentence, it talks about that many people with eating disorders also feel frequently emotionally and physically numb, and they may even experience moments of total dissociation. Dissociation means separation. So they feel disconnection. It says that they feel uneasy in their own skin, right? They don't feel certain body parts, physically numb. Okay, so the people with eating disorders, they have the disconnection with the brain and body. Okay, so they stop feeling their body. They feel physical numbness in their body. So that is why this term, the development of this dissociation, is mentioned in this paragraph. If you look at this also, I found that this paragraph, when it starts, I found that for many of my clients, the experience of trauma seems set the stage for this dissociative state, and the eating disorder serves as a manifestation for the disconnection. So it talks about this disconnection part. So disconnection between brain and body. Okay, let's look at the next question. The passage argues that the trauma can be a significant factor in the development of eating disorders. Which of the following, if true, will weaken this argument? Okay, so the argument is trauma is a significant factor. So if something which suggests that it is not a significant factor, right, so that would weaken this argument. Individuals with a genetic predisposition towards eating disorders are more likely to develop condition after experiencing trauma. So again, it is again getting, like, it is talking about that with a genetic predisposition towards eating disorders are more likely to develop condition after experiencing trauma. So it becomes like, it add additional perspective, but it does not say that trauma is not a significant factor. Okay, so again it makes that trauma is a significant factor only. So we need to find an argument which is against this. People with a history of disordered eating behaviors are more likely to experience trauma in their lives. So it is not about experience trauma with people who already have like disordered eating behaviors are likely to experience trauma. No, that is not the case. So we need to tell an argument that the argument says that trauma is the main reason for this eating disorders. Eating disorders can also be triggered by societal pressures related to body image. Okay, trauma can manifest in a variety of ways, and not everyone who experiences trauma develops an eating disorder. Okay, so it says that trauma can be a significant factor in the development of eating disorders. So it says that trauma is a significant factor, and so we need to find an argument which says that trauma is not a significant factor, right? It says that trauma is a significant factor. So it says trauma can manifest in a variety of ways, and not everyone who experiences trauma develops an eating disorder. And one of the sentences says that eating disorders can also be triggered by societal pressures. Okay, so you need to find that which one is the right one. So it says that, so like we need to find another reason, right? It says that trauma is a significant factor. So we can eliminate one because it does not weaken. So it says that option A talks about trauma can strengthen the connection between trauma and descending orders. So this is basically strengthening the argument. Okay, so that is why it was wrong. And second was presenting like still trauma can be still a factor. Now if you look at C presents another factor. Okay, so the argument is trauma is a significant factor. It gives that eating disorders can also be triggered by societal pressures. So it is talking about another factor. So basically the argument is trauma is the main factor. You have to think of an argument which says that there is another factor. So that looks fine. Now let's look at D. So it says that trauma does not always lead to eating disorders, but it does not talk about another factor. Okay, so these are two close options. It says trauma can manifest in a variety of ways, and not everyone who experiences trauma develops an eating disorder. So it says that, let's say like 90% of the people may experience eating disorder, 10% may not experience eating disorder. We have to find a statement which says that eating disorders like trauma is not the major factor. So this statement talks about another factor which leads to eating disorders. So hence this will weaken the argument. The argument is trauma is the significant factor, and a statement which talks about that there is another factor would weaken that argument. Okay, this is not weakening the argument, it is yes related to the argument. It says that not everyone experiences trauma develops an eating disorder, but it does not present another factor for eating disorder. So as long as we are able to get a new factor for eating disorder, that will be the weakening argument. Okay, so in case you are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance tests, you can enroll in our test series in which we will offer mock tests for CAT and all other MBA entrance exams as well, and you can get 20% discount on this pack till the end of this month. And there has been a lot of demand from students for our CAT course, and we are already running a couple of batches. However, if you want to like enroll in a crash course, which we shall start in September, in which we will like we have a comprehensive batches right now, but later on we can start a crash course in which we expect students who already have their bases cleared and just want to practice like advanced problems to boost their preparation can enroll in this course, and we shall be launching it in September. So we'll announce it on our YouTube channel, Instagram and Telegram groups, so you can subscribe to our channel to get updates on the same. So this was today's class, and I hope you enjoyed this class, and in order to get the PDF of this class, join our Telegram group. So this was day 24. We have 6 more videos coming in this series, and if you watch all the 30 videos and solve these questions, definitely this is going to boost your preparation for the examination, and you are bound to do well on the examination if you have learned something great from these sessions. So please don't forget to like this video and share it with friends who are preparing for CAT.